The first hammer strike landed while Sophia Bennett knelt before 300 guests at the Romano succession banquet. Her hands, the hands that had translated every secret negotiation for Don Alessio Romano, Estef's younger brother, were pinned beneath a steel restraint. Alessio had been shown security footage of Sophia signaling an assassin, along with a payment routed into her disabled father's account. At midnight, his 11-year-old nephew would be crowned the family's new heir. Until then, Sophia had one chance to identify her accomplice. But when she looked toward the boy, he repeated the same innocent sign 3 times. The man behind the red curtain has no shadow. Sophia suddenly understood that the footage accusing her had been recorded from the wrong side of the room. Someone had mirrored every gesture and replaced one of Alessio's blood relatives before the ceremony. With her fingers already broken and the second hammer rising, Sophia used her own blood to draw a warning on the white marble floor. The first hammer strike landed while Sophia Bennett knelt before 300 guests in the Romano ballroom. Pain exploded through her left hand. The steel restraint swallowed her scream before it escaped her throat. But her body still recoiled, emerald silk pulling tight across her soft, generous curves as 2 guards forced her shoulders down. Blood welled beneath the restraint and ran between fingers that had carried the Romano family's most dangerous secrets for 6 years. At the head of the succession table, Don Alessio Romano watched without moving. He wore black, as he always did when the family's future required someone else's suffering. The only evidence of emotion was the tension in his right hand, resting beside the sealed succession document. Behind him, an enormous clock counted toward midnight. 43 minutes remained before 11-year-old Nico Romano would be recognized as the next legal beneficiary of the Romano shipping empire. The ceremony would transfer control of 7 ports, 19 legitimate companies, and the voting authority that had kept 4 rival families from tearing the East Coast apart. Sophia had helped write the private signs that would authenticate that transfer. Now those signs had condemned her. A screen above the musicians replayed the same silent footage. Sophia appeared in a service corridor 2 nights earlier, facing a hooded man. Her hands moved rapidly. East entrance unguarded. Alessio arrives at 10. Kill the boy. First, the sequence had her rhythm. Her pauses, even the slight curl in her right little finger caused by a childhood fracture. A bank record appeared beside it. $250,000 had entered. Her father's medical trust 6 hours later. You taught us silence could be more precise than speech, Alessio said. You were right. His voice traveled through the ballroom without effort. Near the succession table sat Gabriel Romano, Alessio's 28-year-old deaf younger brother. His face was rigid with shock. Sophia had interpreted for him through hostile negotiations, hospital consultations, and the funeral of the father they had both feared. Tonight, Gabriel's hands remained clenched beneath the table. He would not speak for her. Name the man in the corridor, Alessio ordered. Sophia lifted her chin. Auburn hair clung to her damp cheeks. But she refused to bow her head. The payment is real. A murmur moved through the guests. Alessio's expression hardened. My father received it, she continued. I moved him before your security team could reach the facility. You admit taking the money and hiding him. I admit protecting him from me, from whoever knew I had discovered. The lights dimmed as the orchestra prepared for the succession procession. Across the ballroom, Nico stood beside a red velvet curtain. The boy should have been watching Sophia. Instead, he stared at someone concealed behind the fabric. His small hands moved at waist level. The man behind the red curtain has no shadow. Sophia forgot the pain. Nico repeated the sentence. Then a third time, she looked at the screen again. The corridor camera showed Sophia, signing with her left hand closest to the wall. But the real corridor placed that wall on the signer's right. Even the old fracture appeared on the wrong little finger. The image had been mirrored. Someone had recorded an imitation, reversed it, and layered it over authentic security footage. The figure behind the curtain was standing beyond the reach of the ballroom lights because he was not supposed to be seen before the transfer. Sophia twisted toward Alessio. "Don't bring Nico to the table." A captain seized her jaw. "You don't give orders here." "Look at the curtain," she gasped. The footage was reversed. Someone copied our signs. Alessio glanced toward Nico. The red curtain was still. Then Gabriel rose from his seat and walked behind it. A moment later, he returned with an elderly Romano accountant whose presence was entirely expected. Nothing appeared wrong. Sophia searched for Nico. The boy had disappeared. Her blood went cold. "The man was the threat," she whispered. "Nico was warning me about the light. He's been taught a false meaning for one of our signs." Alessio stepped closer. "Which sign?" Sophia tried to answer, but the ballroom doors slammed shut. Armed guards rotated the interior locks while the musicians continued playing, unaware or unwilling to stop. On the white marble, beneath Sophia's injured hand, her blood had formed a crooked reflection of the Romano succession symbol. That was when she understood what the mirrored footage was designed to hide. The ceremonial sign for rightful heir had been reversed into the family's old execution order. Sophia dragged one bleeding finger across the floor and wrote a single word: switched. Alessio looked from the warning to the empty place beside the curtain. "Find Nico," he commanded. Then he faced the man holding the hammer. "Destroy her other hand before midnight. If she is lying, she will never sign again. If she is telling the truth, someone in this room will try to stop us." The guards lowered a reinforced barrier over every exit. The second hammer rose. The hammer never reached Sophia's right hand. A sharp metallic chime sounded behind the red curtain. Every light in the ballroom turned blue, signaling that someone had opened one of the Romano residence protected interior doors without authorization. Alessio caught the executioner's wrist. "Hold her here." He signed the order as he spoke, ensuring Gabriel understood. Then he pointed to 6 captains. "Search the east wing. Nico cannot have left the house." Gabriel moved toward the curtain, but Alessio blocked him. "No family member leaves this room until we know who changed the signs." The distinction was deliberate. Alessio trusted blood before rank, rank before service, and service before affection. It was the hierarchy his father had carved into him after Alessio's mother lost her hearing in the bombing that killed 2 Romano cousins. Sophia had spent 6 years learning how dangerous that hierarchy could be. 6 hours earlier, she had stood in Alessio's private office, correcting the succession ceremony no one else realized was broken. The legal attorneys had drafted 43 pages of spoken declarations. The security team had prepared visual commands based on military hand signals. Neither group had considered what would happen if the ballroom lost power, if the musicians obscured a verbal order, or if Gabriel and Alessio's mother needed to distinguish a ceremonial gesture from a genuine emergency command. Sophia had. She wore an ivory wrap dress beneath a fitted burgundy jacket, the cut elegant against her full hips and soft waist. In rooms where powerful men tried to make her smaller, she dressed as if space belonged to her. She had arranged colored cards across Alessio's black conference table, each representing a person, doorway, camera, or command. "You placed Nico here," she had said, indicating the red curtain. "His nearest secure exit is 28 feet away." Alessio had remained behind his desk. "There will be 40 armed men between him and any threat." 40 armed men waiting for spoken instructions in a room designed to amplify music. "My captains know their positions." Your captains know where to stand. They don't know what Gabriel will see that made him look at her. Alessio Romano was 38, broad-shouldered and disciplined enough to make stillness feel like a threat. Most people rushed to fill his silences. Sophia had learned not to. She turned off the office lights. Emergency strips illuminated the floor, but the portraits, doors, and faces above waist height disappeared into darkness. From beside the window, Gabriel signed. "I can see her hands. I see yours." Sophia switched the lights back on. Alessio's attention rested on her longer than necessary. Attraction had never been their problem. He noticed the confidence in her posture and the sensual line of every carefully chosen dress. He simply trusted her competence more readily than he acknowledged the woman who possessed it. "What do you recommend?" he asked. "Keep ceremonial signing at chest height. Emergency commands above the shoulder. No mirrored surfaces behind authorized signers. Every instruction involving Nico requires confirmation from 2 people." She demonstrated the family S sign for rightful heir. Right hand crossing the chest, palm turned inward, followed by 2 fingers touching the heart. Gabriel repeated it accurately. Alessio performed it with his palm facing outward. Sophia stepped around the desk and corrected his wrist. Her fingers rested against his skin for only a second, but his pulse changed beneath them. "Direction matters," she said softly. "Reversed, that begins an old Romano execution command." His gaze dropped to her mouth before returning to her hands. "Then no one reverses it." It was the kind of answer Alessio gave when he believed authority could control physics. "Sophia, with reflections reverse it. Cameras can reverse it. A frightened child copying someone across a room can reverse it." Before Alessio responded, his security chief entered without knocking. Vittorio Crane was not Romano by blood, but Alessio's father had raised him inside the family after Vittorio's parents were killed. At 45, he commanded the resident security network and knew which doors could be locked, which cameras could be isolated, and which staff members had debts. He placed a folder on the desk. "The interpreter's father has been moved from St. Matthew's Clinic," Vittorio said. "No discharge authorization. No forwarding address." Sophia kept her face calm. Her father, Daniel Bennett, had lost the use of his legs in an industrial accident 12 years earlier. 3 anonymous threats had reached his clinic that week. Sophia had moved him that morning, using funds transferred through an account she did not recognize. She had intended to tell Alessio after identifying who sent the money. Vittorio watched her too closely. Alessio opened the folder. "Did you move him?" "Yes." "Why didn't you come to me?" "Because someone inside this house knew his room number." Vittorio's expression did not change. Only security personnel had that information. "That is exactly why I didn't report it through security." The temperature in the office seemed to drop. Alessio closed the folder. "You are accusing my chief." I am identifying a compromised channel. You are making a distinction without evidence. Sophia looked at the colored cards on the table. One card, the one representing the East Wing security station, had been shifted several inches from where she had placed it. Vittorio stood beside it. She said nothing. Not yet, now, kneeling in the blue-lit ballroom with one damaged hand trapped beneath steel, Sophia saw Vittorio approach Alessio and whisper into his ear. "The East Wing is empty," Vittorio announced. "Nico's tracker is still inside the ballroom." A guard lifted a small gold pin from beneath the red curtain. Nico's tracker had been torn from his jacket. Sophia stared at Vittorio's hands. His left thumb brushed twice across his right palm, a nervous motion she had seen in the office when he lied about her father's records. Then the ballroom clock stopped. Not at midnight, at 11:28. The exact minute Sophia had removed from the original security schedule because the East Wing cameras would reboot. Only 3 people had seen that correction: Sophia, Alessio, and Vittorio Crane. Only 3 people had seen Sophia's correction to the security schedule. She had written it at 5:12 that evening. After discovering the East Wing cameras would restart together at 11:28 instead of cycling one at a time. Alessio had approved her revised schedule. Vittorio had taken the original and promised to distribute the correction to his technicians. Yet now the ballroom clock had frozen at precisely 11:28, and Nico was missing inside the same blind interval Sophia had tried to eliminate. "Restore the cameras," Alessio ordered. Vittorio touched his earpiece, the system insta-responding. "Then use the local controls. The East Wing station has been locked remotely." Sophia looked at Alessio. He knew Vittorio turned toward her. "Of course I knew. You gave me the schedule." "That isn't what she means," Gabriel signed. Alessio saw his brother's hands, but did not respond. His attention remained on the ballroom doors, as though the greatest threat must exist beyond them rather than beside him. Sophia's injured fingers had begun to swell. Every heartbeat drove pain up her arm, but the agony sharpened a memory she had previously dismissed. At 5:26 that evening, after leaving Alessio's office, she had gone to the East Wing security station to confirm the corrected reboot sequence herself. Technician Aaron Pike sat before 12 monitors, eating noodles from a paper carton. He had worked Romano events for 9 years and complained whenever anyone interrupted his meals. That evening his food remained untouched. Sophia placed the revised schedule beside his keyboard. "I need you to stagger these 3 camera clusters." Aaron studied the paper. "They already stagger. The diagnostic report says otherwise." "That report is old. It was generated 11 minutes ago." His eyes shifted toward the ceiling camera. Sophia noticed his right hand resting beside the keyboard. Aaron had lost the tip of his index finger in a motorcycle accident. She had interpreted his insurance deposition 2 years earlier. The man at the desk had all 10 fingers. Sophia smiled as though nothing was wrong. "Then I'll let Vittorio handle it." She walked out at the same measured pace she used after every routine inspection. At the first corner, she entered the staff restroom and locked the door. Calling Alessio would have been simplest. It would also have routed her phone through the Romano security network controlled by Vittorio. She opened the accessibility application she used to send live transcripts to Gabriel. Its messages traveled through an independent medical server because Gabriel's audiologist, not Romano security, maintained the account. Sophia typed, "Do not respond. Ask Aaron Pike to show you his right hand." Do not tell security why. The message failed. A red notice appeared. Account suspended by administrator. Someone had obtained access to Gabriel S. medical account less than 4 minutes after Sophia entered the security station. She removed the phone's battery and stared at her reflection above the sink. A second, Sophia stared back. Mirrors, reversed hands, a stranger trained to occupy a familiar position long enough for cameras to accept him. She returned to the corridor and deliberately dropped one of her gold earrings outside the security station door. When she bent to retrieve it, she saw a strip of translucent training tape beneath the desk. Someone had marked hand positions on the floor, allowing an imitator to reproduce erroneous posture for fixed cameras. That was not preparation for a single kidnapping. It was rehearsal for replacing multiple people. Sophia continued toward the ballroom, but instead of entering, she went to the children's preparation suite. Nico stood before a tutor, practicing succession signs. The tutor was Miriam Vale, a speech therapist hired by Vittorio 3 months earlier. Her qualifications were genuine. Her gestures were not. "Show me rightful heir," Sophia asked. Nico crossed his chest with the wrong hand and turned his palm outward, the beginning of the Romano execution order. Sophia gently corrected him. "Who taught you that version?" Miss Miriam said. "The cameras flip everything." Miriam smiled. "Children remember better when we make it a game." Sophia returned the smile. "Of course." She asked Nico to fetch his ceremonial gloves. The moment he entered the dressing room, Sophia stepped between Miriam and the door. "Who gave you the reversed sequence?" Miriam's composure vanished. "I don't know what you mean. You taught a Romano heir, an execution command, and disguised it as ceremony." Miriam reached into her handbag. Sophia seized the woman's wrist before she could draw the compact pistol inside. Miriam was smaller and faster, but Sophia used her weight deliberately, driving her against the wardrobe. The pistol fell onto the carpet. Sophia kicked it beneath a cabinet. She could have broken Miriam's wrist. Instead, she released her and pulled Nico from the dressing room. Her moral line had never changed. She would use force to escape, never punishment to satisfy anger. Miriam recovered and struck the alarm button concealed beneath the vanity. Sophia led Nico through the service passage toward Alessio's private office. Halfway there, 2 guards blocked the corridor. Vittorio approached behind them. "Nico must remain with his assigned tutor," he said. His tutor brought a gun into the preparation suite. Vittorio did not look surprised. That was the second fact. The first had been the false Aaron Pike. Sophia moved Nico behind her. "Call Alessio on a device you don't control." Vittorio's gaze settled on her. Disconnected phone. "You have been investigating internal security without authorization," he said. "No, I've been doing your job." For 1 second, something cold and honest appeared in his face. Then Nico screamed. Miriam had emerged through the service door and fired into the ceiling. As the guards turned, Sophia pushed Nico through an unmonitored laundry hatch she had identified during the afternoon inspection. "Follow the blue pipes," she told him. "Do not come out until you see Gabriel." Nico crawled into darkness. Sophia closed the hatch before Vittorio reached her. His expression changed when he realized she had removed the heir from every camera under his control. "You just kidnapped a Romano child," he said quietly. Behind him, Miriam lifted a phone and showed Sophia the recording she had captured. Sophia forcing Nico into a dark passage, with no image of the pistol or the preceding attack. The necessary act already looked like betrayal. Vittorio smiled. "Now," he said, We can finally make Alessio believe it. Vittorio did not arrest Sophia in the service corridor. He offered her a choice. "Tell Alessio you moved Nico for money," he said, "and your father remains alive." Miriam stood behind him with the compact pistol, while the two guards who had witnessed the confrontation avoided Sophia's eyes. Whether they were loyal to Vittorio or merely afraid of him no longer mattered. Sophia looked at the laundry hatch. The panel remained closed. Nico had obeyed her. "You transferred the money," she said, "to an account you control. My father's medical trust cannot receive anonymous deposits, which is why the authorization bears your electronic signature." He showed her the transaction on his phone. $250,000 had entered the trust at 6:03 that morning. At 6:11, Sophia had used the account to pay for her father's transfer to a protected rehabilitation center. The second action was real. Placed beside the first, it appeared to be payment accepted and spent. Vittorio had not invented her betrayal. He had constructed a false meaning around her attempt to save her father. "What do you want?" she asked. The succession vote completed. With Nico, with the heir presented to the families, his wording was precise enough to terrify her. "You intend to replace him." Vittorio, his mouth curved. "You understand too quickly. That is why this became necessary." Footsteps sounded beyond the corridor. Sophia raised her voice. "Alessio!" Miriam struck the back of her head with the pistol. The corridor tilted. Sophia caught herself against the wall, but Vittorio seized her injured left hand and twisted until pain blinded her. When Alessio appeared at the far end with Gabriel and 6 captains, he saw Sophia struggling against his security chief, Nico absent, and Miriam bleeding from the lip. Vittorio released Sophia. As though escaping her grip, she forced the boy into the service system. He said, "We lost his tracker." Sophia tried to reach Alessio, but the guards restrained her. "The tutor had a weapon," she said. "Check beneath the cabinet in the preparation suite." Miriam calmly opened her empty handbag. "She attacked me when I stopped her from taking Nico. Her gun is under the wardrobe." Vittorio touched his earpiece. "Search it." A guard entered the suite and returned less than a minute later. Nothing, Sophia understood. Someone had recovered the weapon while Vittorio delayed her. "Check Aaron Pike's right hand," she said. "The man in the East Wing station is an imposter." Aaron Pike left the residence. "At 4, Vittorio replied immediately. "You signed his departure record. I signed a request for him to report here." Vittorio produced a tablet. Her signature appeared beneath a departure authorization. Alessio took the device. "Is this yours?" The signature had originated from the accessibility pad in his office, the same pad Sophia used daily to approve translated transcripts. "Yes," she said, "but not for that document." The truth sounded weaker with every sentence. Vittorio displayed the mirrored corridor footage. It showed Sophia signing instructions to a hooded man. The copied rhythm was nearly perfect because the movements had been assembled from recordings stored in Gabriel's translation archive. Then came the bank transfer. Then Miriam's video of Sophia pushing Nico into darkness. 3 pieces of evidence, each containing something real. Alessio watched them twice. Sophia waited for him to notice the reversed fracture, the wall on the wrong side, or the missing moments before Nico entered the hatch. He noticed none of them. "Where does the passage lead?" he asked. "Old laundry sorting beneath the east wing. The blue pipes end near Gabriel's therapy room." A captain checked his radio. "No child there. He may be hiding." "Or your accomplice removed him," Vittorio said. Sophia looked directly at Alessio. "Search the passage yourself. Do not send anyone who reports to him." Vittorio's hand moved toward his weapon. There, the same brush of his left thumb across his right palm. Alessio saw only the accusation in Sophia's face. "You asked me to distrust the man my father raised as a son," he said. "I am asking you to distrust evidence controlled by the person it protects, and trust you instead? You trusted my hands every time silence frightened you." The words struck him. She saw it. But hurt was not evidence, and Alessio had been trained to punish uncertainty before it became rebellion. "Take her to the ballroom," he ordered. That decision carried them back to the steel restraint, the frozen clock, and the hammer raised above Sophia's uninjured hand. Now, at 11:31, a voice came through Vittorio's radio. "We found blood in the laundry passage." The ballroom erupted in frightened whispers. "Whose?" Alessio demanded. "Type? AB positive, Nico's blood type." Sophia's stomach dropped, but she forced herself to think. Nico had not been injured when he entered the hatch. Someone had placed the blood afterward or reached him farther inside. Vittorio turned the radio so the guests could hear. "We also found Miss Bennett's earring beside it." The earring she had deliberately dropped outside the security station. Vittorio had moved it. Alessio looked at Sophia, and whatever private doubt had existed in him disappeared behind command. "Finish it," he told the executioner. The hammer descended. Sophia pulled with all her strength. The damaged restraint shifted just enough for the blow to strike the steel hinge instead of her right hand. The impact snapped the weakened locking pin. Her hand came free. At that exact moment, the ballroom's blue emergency lights went dark. Gunfire burst from behind the red curtain. Guests fell beneath tables. Guards fired toward shadows without knowing who they were shooting at. Sophia tore her injured left hand from the restraint, leaving skin and blood against the steel, and threw herself beneath the succession table. Alessio reached for her. For one impossible second, their fingers touched. Then Vittorio fired between them. The bullet struck the marble beside Sophia's shoulder, forcing Alessio backward. Sophia rolled through an opening beneath the musician's platform and dropped into the maintenance cavity. Below the floor, she landed hard on her hip. Pain shot through her side. But her legs held. Above her, Vittorio shouted, "She has escaped!" Sophia pressed her mangled left hand against her chest and crawled into the dark passage. Behind her, heavy boots entered the cavity. Ahead, a child's hand appeared from behind a ventilation column. Nico was alive, but he was not alone. The man crouched beside Nico was the real Aaron Pike. Blood soaked the security technician's shirt from a wound beneath his ribs. His right index finger ended at the first knuckle. Exactly as Sophia remembered, a plastic restraint bound one ankle to a ventilation pipe. Nico pressed both hands over the wound. "I followed the blue pipes," the boy whispered. "I found him here." Sophia crawled forward, dragging her injured left hand against her chest. "How long have you been down here?" "Since 4:15. Aaron struggled to focus on her face. "Vittorio said I was being reassigned. 2 men grabbed me in the garage." The boots behind Sophia grew louder. She used her right hand to search Aaron's pockets and found a folding utility knife. Cutting the restraint, one-handed, took precious seconds. "Can you walk with help?" Sophia placed Aaron's arm across her shoulders. Her hip throbbed from the fall, and blood dripped steadily from her damaged fingers. But she forced herself upright. "Nico, take the knife. Stay behind me." The maintenance cavity divided ahead. The blue pipes continued east toward Gabriel's therapy room. A narrower steam conduit descended toward the old boiler tunnels beneath the property. Sophia chose the tunnels. "Miss Bennett," Nico signed, keeping his movements small in the darkness. Uncle Alessio said blue pipes. He also ordered everyone to search them. The boy understood. He folded the knife and followed. Above them, Alessio stood beneath emergency floodlights while his captains counted the injured. 3 guests had been hit during the gunfire. None of the wounds were fatal. The shooters behind the curtain had vanished through a service door that only security personnel could unlock. Vittorio blamed Sophia. "She released them before she escaped," he said. Alessio looked at the marble where Vittorio's bullet had struck between him and Sophia. "You fired toward me. She was reaching for you. She was reaching with an empty hand." Vittorio's jaw tightened. "I had less than a second." It was not proof, but it was the first time Alessio had heard his security chief explain danger by minimizing it. Gabriel approached and signed. "She told Nico to follow the blue pipes." "I know then. Why did your men search only the therapy room?" Alessio turned to Vittorio. "The blue line crosses 6 rooms," Gabriel continued. "Sophia designed the emergency route. She would know that." Vittorio answered aloud, forcing Gabriel to depend on Alessio's interpretation. "The boy's blood was found near the therapy room." Alessio signed the words to his brother, then stopped. The report had identified only a blood type. "Was the sample matched to Nico?" he asked. Vittorio hesitated. "AB positive. Same as the child." "That was my question. DNA processing requires hours." Then you announced a conclusion you didn't have. A silence formed between them. Alessio looked toward the place where Sophia's earring had supposedly been recovered. She had worn matching gold drops when she entered the ballroom, but the execution guards had removed her jewelry before restraining her. He summoned the guard who had cataloged her belongings. "How many earrings did you take from Bennett?" The young man checked the property envelope. "1, sir." "Was the clasp torn?" "No. The earring had not been ripped away during a struggle. Sophia had removed or lost it earlier before entering the ballroom and long before the blood appeared." That was the technical contradiction. Alessio walked to the screen and replayed the corridor footage. This time, he ignored the gestures and watched the architecture. The figure signed beside a white service panel. In the actual corridor, the panel was mounted on the opposite wall. He enlarged Sophia's hands. The childhood injury appeared on her left little finger, not her right. The evidence had been reversed before presentation. Behind him, Vittorio quietly reached for his phone. Alessio saw the movement reflected in the dark screen dot. Every captain in the ballroom froze. Vittorio lowered his hand. "You think I altered it? I think someone did. That woman has manipulated your brother for years. She knows every private command in this family." Gabriel read Vittorio's lips. His expression changed. "She never manipulated me," he signed. "She refused to translate one of Father's orders because it instructed me to sign away my inheritance without understanding it." Alessio remembered the incident. Sophia had risked dismissal to insist Gabriel receive independent legal counsel. A woman planning to eliminate Romano heirs had once protected the legal rights of the easiest heir to exploit. That was the personal contradiction. Still, Alessio did not release the ballroom or accuse Vittorio. Sophia might be innocent of the recorded message and still involved in a separate plot. Nico remained missing, Aaron was unaccounted for, and midnight approached. He needed an adversarial test. Alessio called 4 captains individually. To each, he gave a different destination where Sophia might emerge from the maintenance system. To Captain Russo, he named the greenhouse. To Captain Bell, the north garage. To Gabriel, using signs only they shared, he named the chapel crypt. To Vittorio, he said, the old boiler tunnel exits beneath the river dock. Send 6 men quietly. Vittorio nodded and relayed the instruction. Alessio waited 90 seconds before asking the estate's independent dockmaster for a visual feed. The dock cameras operated through Romano Shipping. Outside Vittorio's residential network, 2 black SUVs were already racing toward the river. They had departed before Vittorio received Alessio's false instruction. Someone under Vittorio's authority had been waiting for Sophia at the exact location. Alessio had just invented the third contradiction. Alessio drew his weapon. Detain Vittorio Crane. Half the captains obeyed. The other half raised their guns at Alessio. Vittorio stepped backward, no longer pretending surprise. You should have let the hammer finish its work, he said. The ballroom erupted again, but Alessio had anticipated resistance this time. Gabriel killed the emergency lights, and the loyal captains moved according to Sophia's visual positioning plan. In darkness, Vittorio's men lost their advantage. Vittorio escaped through the musician's passage. 2 captains followed him. Alessio did not. He went to the ballroom floor and found the word Sophia had written in blood, switched. Beneath it, almost hidden by footprints, she had drawn 3 short lines descending beneath a circle. Gabriel recognized the sign. Boiler, lower level. Alessio opened the original building plans. The old boiler tunnels did not end at the river dock. That exit had been sealed 20 years earlier. The surviving passage led beneath the Romano-owned Est Catherine Rehabilitation Center, the same facility where Sophia had secretly moved her father that morning. For the first time, Alessio understood that she had not hidden Daniel Bennett from the Romano family. She had placed him at the only destination she believed Vittorio's residential security could not monitor. Alessio closed the plans. Sophia was taking Nico there, and Vittorio already knew where her father was. Sophia reached Catherine Rehabilitation Center at 12:17 a.m. The tunnel emerged behind a disused hydrotherapy room in the building's oldest wing. Aaron had lost enough blood that he could no longer support his own weight. So Sophia and Nico dragged him on a canvas equipment mat for the final 100 yards. Sophia's left hand was useless. 2 fingers were fractured. The skin across her knuckles had been torn, and sensation came and went in sharp electrical bursts. Her right hand still worked, but every time she pulled Aaron forward, pain spread from her bruised hip into her lower back. She did not permit herself to stop. The night nurse at St. Catherine was a woman named Helen Cho, one of the 3 people Sophia had trusted with her father's transfer. Helen took one look at Aaron and unlocked the hydrotherapy room without asking for an explanation. He needs a trauma surgeon, Helen said. He needs someone outside the Romano network. Those are not mutually exclusive. Tonight they are, Helen called a physician employed through the Rehabilitation Center's university partnership, then cleaned Sophia's hand while they waited. She immobilized the fractured fingers with padded splints and wrapped the entire hand. You may need surgery, Helen warned. You cannot use this hand. I know. I mean for anything. No gripping, no lifting, no signing. Sophia looked toward Nico. The child sat beside Aaron, holding the wounded man's uninjured hand. She could still communicate one-handed, but complex Romano signs depended on direction, position, and paired confirmation. Half a sentence could become an order. An imprecise movement could kill someone. For the first time since she was 16, Sophia's own language no longer felt safe inside her body. A soft knock came from the connecting patient room. Her father waited there in his wheelchair. Daniel Bennett was 62, broad-faced and silver-haired, with the patient eyes Sophia had inherited. He saw the splint and went pale. What did they do? What I knew they might. You didn't know this. I knew enough to move you. She knelt beside him, keeping her injured hand away from his reach. Daniel touched her cheek instead. Behind them, Nico suddenly stood. Someone was entering the tunnel. Sophia took the utility knife from the boy and placed herself between the doorway and everyone else. Alessio emerged alone. His black dinner jacket was gone. Blood marked one sleeve of his white shirt, though the wound beneath it appeared shallow. He carried a pistol pointed at the floor. Sophia opened the knife. "Nico," Alessio said. The child ran toward him, but Sophia blocked the path. "Put the gun down." Alessio obeyed immediately. He placed the weapon on the wet tile and kicked it toward her. Sophia did not lower the knife. "Nico is safe," she said. "Aaron is alive, you can leave. I came through a tunnel occupied by Vittorio's men, and yet you arrived without them. They were waiting at the wrong exit. Because you sent them there." His eyes sharpened. "You know about the test." "I know Vittorio. He never commits all his resources until he confirms which version of the truth benefits him." Alessio looked at her splinted hand. Guilt changed his face, but Sophia felt no satisfaction in it. "I stopped the second blow," he said. "You ordered the first." He accepted the words without defending himself. Behind Sophia, Aaron stirred. "Don't let him take the kid," he whispered. Alessio remained where he was. "I won't take anyone." "You don't make that decision anymore," Sophia said before he could answer. The building's fire alarm flashed without sounding. Silent strobes pulsed along the ceiling. Nico studied the rhythm. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short. Sophia recognized it as a Romano evacuation command. But the final interval was wrong. "Don't move," she said. Smoke began curling beneath the hallway door. Alessio reached for his pistol. Sophia kicked it back to him. "Now we cooperate," she said. "Only until they are gone." He retrieved the weapon and followed her instructions. Helen moved Aaron into Daniel's room. The university physician arrived through the west stairwell just as the east corridor filled with armed men wearing fire department jackets. Sophia had Helen seal the patient room door, then directed Alessio into the hydrotherapy control booth. The intruders entered in pairs. They did not search rooms randomly. Each man checked a printed list. Sophia watched through the booth window. "They know Daniel's room number," Alessio said. "They knew it before I moved him. The threat at his first clinic was designed to make me transfer him. Why? To force me to use the money they planted." One intruder paused beside the hydrotherapy pool and signaled the others. The gesture was Romano, not a formal command, but a private variation Alessio's father had taught his household guards. Alessio raised his pistol. Sophia pushed the barrel down with her right hand. "If you shoot now, the others execute everyone on their list. What do you suggest?" "The pool filtration panel controls the floor drains. Open all 4 valves that floods this room." "Exactly." Alessio followed her plan. Water surged across the tile, spreading beneath the corridor door. Sophia then triggered the hydrotherapy lift. Its steel arm swung outward, striking a fire door and slamming it shut between the 2 pairs of intruders. Separated, the men lost visual contact. Alessio moved. He disarmed the first attacker without firing. using the narrow doorway to prevent the second from gaining an angle. Sophia locked the fire door behind him, trapping the other pair in the flooded corridor until St. Catherine's legitimate security team arrived from the university wing. When it ended, Alessio returned with a stolen radio and a black folder taken from one attacker. For the first time, he did not open the evidence himself. He handed it to Sophia. Inside were photographs of every surviving Romano heir, their blood types, allergies, medical devices, and assigned positions at the ceremony. Beside each photograph was a handwritten sign. Most were correct. 3 had been reversed. Nico's ceremonial sign would have triggered the old execution order. Alessio's mother's sign had been changed from remain seated to approach the heir. Gabriel's sign had been changed from seal the room to open all exits. The alterations were designed to place every blood relative in the path of a different attacker while making the family appear to order its own destruction. At the back of the folder lay a temporary trusteeship agreement. If Alessio and the recognized heirs died before the succession transfer, control of Romano Shipping's port security contracts would pass for 90 days to the family's security administrator, Vittorio Crane. 90 days is enough to transfer the routes, Sophia said. After that, it wouldn't matter who inherited an empty company. Alessio read the contract twice. My father appointed Vittorio. Your father also built the private language. Vittorio is using against you. Daniel spoke from the doorway, not by himself. Everyone turned Sophia's. Father rolled his wheelchair into the room. In his lap rested an old photograph he had removed from his medical file before leaving the first clinic. It showed Alessio's father 20 years earlier standing beside 2 boys. One was Vittorio, the other had Alessio's face. Alessio stared at it. That isn't me, no, Daniel said. It is the brother your family declared dead before you were old enough to remember him. Then Nico lifted his hands and repeated the warning from behind the red curtain. The man with no shadow looks exactly like Uncle Alessio. The boy in Daniel Bennett's photograph was named Matteo Romano. He had been Alessio's identical twin. Official family records claimed Matteo died at age 7 in the warehouse fire that killed their grandfather. Daniel knew otherwise because at 22 he had worked in the Romano printing facility where the family's sealed records were produced. The night after the fire, your father brought 2 boys into the press room. Daniel told Alessio, "You were asleep." Matteo was awake. Daniel had been ordered to create a death certificate without a hospital seal, then destroy the printing plate. Before obeying, he photographed the boys beside Vittorio as protection against being killed with the evidence. "Why separate us?" Alessio asked. "I heard your father tell Vittorio that one son would inherit the name. The other would become its shadow." Vittorio had been 14 at the time, old enough to understand the order and spend the next 3 decades controlling the hidden brother who had been raised without legal identity. Sophia studied the photograph. Matteo stood half a step behind Alessio. His clothing matched, but his left sleeve covered his hand. Vittorio's palm rested on the boy's shoulder. The reversed footage required someone with Alessio's proportions, she said. Someone who learned Romano signs from the same teacher. But the figure in the corridor looked like you, Nico said, because Vittorio layered my recorded hands over another body. Sophia looked at Alessio. Your brother provided the movement and proportions. My archive supplied the details. Alessio absorbed the conclusion without visible reaction, but his right hand tightened. "What does Vittorio promise him?" he asked. "Your life," Sophia said, "your name, or the chance to take both." At 12:42 a.m., the university physician finished stabilizing Aaron. The bullet had passed through soft tissue without striking an artery, but he would need surgery and could offer only brief testimony. Aaron confirmed that Vittorio had ordered the synchronized camera reboot. He also identified the substitute technician who occupied his station, but he had never heard Vittorio state the objective or order anyone killed. The black folder connected Vittorio to motive and operational access. The mirrored footage disproved Sophia's apparent betrayal. Daniel S. photograph established Matteo's existence. None proved that Vittorio knowingly organized the murders. "We have suspicion and connection," Sophia said, "not conviction." Alessio placed the temporary trusteeship agreement on the table. At 6 this morning, the succession transfer either completes or the security administrator gains emergency authority. Then Vittorio expects you to cancel the ceremony. The gathering could not simply be postponed. Romano Shipping Port security contracts were secured by a syndicate bond tied to the succession deadline. If the transfer failed, the emergency clause would activate automatically. Vittorio would gain legal control of the security division and immediate access to every restricted cargo route before the board could challenge him. "We finish the transfer before 6, Alessio said. "No," Sophia replied. "We make Vittorio believe you will." He looked at her, waiting rather than commanding. It was a small change, but she noticed it. Sophia spread the black folder. Daniel S. photograph, Aaron S. employee card, and Nico S. gold tracker across the hydrotherapy table. Her left hand rested immobilized against her chest. With her right, she placed each item where Alessio could see the chain. "Vittorio's fatal limitation is the same one he exploited in you," she said. "He trusts Romano's security because he built it. He alters digital records, uses controlled cameras, and isolates witnesses. So we give him evidence that exists only inside a system he believes he controls." Gabriel arrived from the estate at 1:06 with Alessio's mother, Alina Romano, and 4 loyal captains. He embraced Nico, then stopped when he saw Sophia's hand. His signs were precise and furious. Alessio allowed this. "Yes," Sophia said aloud. She did not soften the truth for either brother. Alessio answered in signs. "I ordered it." Alina struck her eldest son across the face. No one moved. Then she faced Sophia and signed, "Tell us what to do." Sophia's plan depended on 3 layers. First, Aaron would send a maintenance notice claiming that the original, unmirrored corridor recording had survived on an offline diagnostic drive. The notice would state that the drive was being transported to the reconvened ceremony at 5:30. No such drive existed. Second, Gabriel would tell one compromised household administrator that the drive could be authenticated only by placing it into the ballroom's central console. Vittorio would have to act on that controlled information, either stealing it, replacing it, or ordering its destruction. Third, Sophia would rebuild the ceremony's signing system without screens. "No cameras," she said, "no mirrored surfaces, no electronic prompts." She used the colored placement cards from Alessio's office and cut each into a distinct shape. Every heir would receive 1 physical command card. Gabriel would verify the gestures visually. Alina would confirm them by touch. Nico would perform only the signs Sophia had personally retrained. "And you?" Alessio asked. "My left hand cannot sign." The admission cost more than she allowed her voice to reveal. "So I want to pretend it can." She designed a relay. Sophia would give one-handed directional cues to Gabriel. Gabriel would complete the paired sign. Elena would confirm the orientation by touching his wrists. If any person was replaced or any gesture reversed, the relay would stop. The system did not require electricity, cameras, or trust in one witness. It required cooperation. At 2:18, Aaron transmitted the false maintenance notice through his authenticated employee account. The message stated that the diagnostic drive would enter the Romano estate in a silver medical case at 5:12. At 2:23, someone accessed Aaron's personnel file from Vittorio's private security credential. At 2:27, the university parking cameras recorded Miriam Vale entering a black sedan. The sedan drove directly toward the Romano estate. Vittorio had acted on the controlled information, but Sophia shook her head. He sent Miriam. That connects him to the leak, not the murders. We let her take the case, Alessio said. And follow her? No. He looked at Sophia. We follow your plan. She held his gaze. The case will contain a ledger showing that Matteo is being moved to the East Chapel before the ceremony, she said. False information known only to us. Vittorio will either abandon his brother, rescue him, or move an attack team there. Any choice reveals what he values. And the real ceremony? The ballroom. Public, crowded, and apparently vulnerable. Alessio understood the risk. You intend to attend. I intend to clear my name in the room where you destroyed it. At 4:51, the silver medical case left Aunt Catherine in an ambulance driven by a loyal Romano captain. Miriam's sedan followed. Sophia watched from an unmarked vehicle with Gabriel and Alessio. Her hand throbbed beneath its splint. Her father and Aaron remained under university protection. Nico and Elena traveled by another route, guarded by people chosen outside Vittorio's chain of command. For the first time that night, every movement belonged to Sophia's design. At 5:04, Miriam seized the case beneath an overpass. At 5:09, Vittorio's men surrounded the East Chapel named in the false ledger. At 5:11, the tracker hidden inside the case stopped moving. Then Alessio received a live video call. His own face appeared on the screen. Matteo Romano stood inside the ballroom wearing Alessio's black succession suit. Behind him, Vittorio held a gun against Elena's head. You planned for a false ceremony, Matteo said, so we began the real one without you. Matteo ended the video call after displaying the ballroom clock. It read 5:14 a.m., 46 minutes remained before the emergency trusteeship activated. Alessio's convoy was 12 minutes from the estate. Elena's security detail had stopped responding, and the route carrying Nico had been compromised. Only the vehicle transporting Sophia, Alessio, and Gabriel remained under their control. We cannot enter through the main gate, Gabriel signed. We have to, Sophia answered. Vittorio wants the 5 families to witness Alessio's return. Alessio understood if they attacked from the tunnels or attempted a rescue in secret. Vittorio could begin shooting hostages and later claim Sophia's faction had caused the bloodshed. The ballroom contained surviving guests, syndicate attorneys, corporate trustees, and representatives from every allied family. That audience was dangerous, but it was also the only arena where Vittorio's legal victory could be reversed publicly. Sophia removed the sling supporting her left arm and hid her splinted hand beneath a loose black coat supplied by Helen. The emerald dress she had worn during her humiliation was torn and stained with dried blood. She refused Alessio's offer of different clothes. They saw what you did to me in this dress, she said. They will see what happens next. At 5:26, the estate gates opened. Vittorio's men confiscated every weapon, phone, and physical command card. They separated Gabriel from Sophia and forced Alessio to walk between them. The ballroom had been transformed. Broken marble had been covered with a crimson runner. The steel restraint remained on the floor as a warning. 3 corporate attorneys sat beneath the succession clock, while the representatives of the 5 families occupied their original tables under armed guard. Alina knelt beside the succession platform with a gun against her neck. Nico stood near the red curtain, unharmed but surrounded, and Matteo occupied Alessio's chair. The resemblance was extraordinary. Same height, same dark eyes, same hard architecture of cheekbones and jaw. Vittorio had dressed him in Alessio's tailored suit and used makeup to reproduce the thin scar near Alessio's temple. But Matteo held his shoulders differently. Alessio's stillness came from command. Matteo's came from waiting for permission. Vittorio stood behind him. 2 heirs, Vittorio announced. 1 throne. The attorneys exchanged nervous glances. Alessio stepped forward. "Release my family." "Which family?" Matteo asked. His voice carried Alessio's tone without its restraint. "The one father kept in daylight, or the one he buried alive." His anger was genuine. That made him more dangerous than an ordinary imposter. Vittorio placed Daniel's old photograph on the succession table. Matteo Romano was erased without consent. Under the family charter, an unrecorded elder twin retains a competing claim until identity is adjudicated. Sophia recognized the strategy. Vittorio no longer needed Matteo to impersonate Alessio. He needed only to create a succession dispute lasting beyond 6 o'clock. The emergency trusteeship would activate while attorneys determined which brother held authority. The plan had adapted. One of the corporate trustees turned to Alessio. "Can you disprove the claim before the deadline?" "No," Alessio said, "but I can prove the security administrator manufactured the crisis." Vittorio smiled. "With a diagnostic drive that never existed?" Miriam entered carrying the open silver case. The false ledger lay inside it. Vittorio had recognized the trap and brought its contents into the ballroom to discredit them publicly. He displayed the document naming the East Chapel. Miss Bennett invented evidence, staged a false transport, and directed armed men toward a building where she claimed Matteo was being held, he said. She has manipulated both Romano brothers. Every face turned toward Sophia. Again. "Bring her forward," Vittorio ordered. 2 guards seized her arms. One gripped the splinted hand, and pain burst through her body, but she remained upright. Vittorio pulled the black coat away, exposing the blood-stained emerald dress. "Alessio condemned this woman as a traitor less than 6 hours ago," he said. "Then she escaped with his heir. Now he returns under her direction. Either he was wrong then, or he is compromised now." It was an effective argument because both possibilities damaged Alessio's authority. Sophia looked at him. They had anticipated that Vittorio would use her presence against him. They had not anticipated Matteo's legal claim or the destruction of their analog relay. Alessio approached her slowly. "What did you place inside the silver case?" he asked. "The false ledger. Did you intend Vittorio to find it?" "Yes." "Did you create the story that Matteo was being held at the East Chapel?" "Yes." The guests heard confession rather than strategy. Alessio stopped directly in front of her. His gaze lowered briefly to her injured hand. Then his expression closed. "Sophia Bennett does not speak for me," he announced. "She will not participate in this succession." Vittorio relaxed. Sophia did not. Alessio had used her full name. In 6 years, whenever he gave a genuine order involving her, he called her Interpreter Bennett. Her full name belonged to private conversations or deliberate performances. He was rejecting her publicly because Vittorio needed to believe the cooperation between them had broken. "Remove her," Alessio ordered. The guards dragged Sophia toward the glass interpretation booth overlooking the ballroom. It had been designed so she could translate ceremonies without standing among armed family members. Tonight, its door locked from the outside. Vittorio had isolated her exactly where Alessio needed her. From the booth, Sophia could see every hand in the room. Below, Alessio addressed Matteo. "If you are my brother, prove it according to Romano law." Matteo looked to Vittorio. "Complete the bloodline recognition sequence," Alessio continued. "No screens, no interpreter, only what our father taught you." Vittorio believed the challenge would deepen the dispute. If Matteo failed, the claim still survived for legal review. If he succeeded, Alessio's authority fractured immediately. Matteo stepped onto the platform. Gabriel was forced to stand opposite him as visual witness. Elena remained kneeling beside the armed guard. Nico watched from beneath the red curtain. At 5:43, the attorneys opened the succession ledger. Matteo began signing. The first gesture identified his father. The second identified the Romano bloodline. The third named him as the hidden elder son. Every movement was accurate. Sophia watched his shoulders, pauses, and hand dominance. His signing rhythm matched the body beneath the forged corridor footage, but something else was wrong. Matteo repeatedly glanced at the ballroom clock before each gesture, not for timing, but for instruction. The clock's second hand was moving in irregular intervals, 2 seconds. Pause. 4 seconds. Pause. 1 second. Vittorio was feeding Matteo the sequence through the clock. Sophia searched the booth for any way to warn Gabriel. The intercom had been disabled. The glass was soundproof. Her left hand could not move, and one-handed signs might be misread. Below, Matteo reached the final recognition phrase. If Gabriel confirmed it, the legal dispute would become active, and the trusteeship would begin at 6. Alessio looked toward the booth. He could not see Sophia clearly because Vittorio had darkened the glass from the ballroom side, but Nico could. The child was standing at the only angle where the red curtain reflected the inside of the booth. Sophia lifted her right hand and signed into the glass. "The clock is speaking." Nico saw the reflection. He turned toward Gabriel and repeated the warning perfectly. Vittorio noticed. "Take the boy," he ordered. A guard grabbed Nico. Gabriel moved to protect him. 2 men forced Gabriel to his knees and bound his hands behind his back, eliminating the visual witness. Vittorio stepped onto the platform himself. "As security administrator, I will certify the sequence." The clock showed 5:51. Matteo completed the final sign. Vittorio pressed his thumb to the trusteeship console. A green light appeared. The emergency transfer began 9 minutes early. Across the ballroom, every electronic lock engaged. The port security route started migrating into Vittorio's control. The attorney's screens displayed an irreversible countdown. 8 minutes. 59 seconds. Sophia struck the glass with her right fist, but no one heard. Then the lights inside her booth came on. A hidden monitor activated behind her. Aaron Pike's face appeared on the screen from his hospital bed. "Sophia," he said. Vittorio made one mistake. He held up the original security station floor tape. Embedded in its translucent adhesive was a partial, bloody fingerprint. It did not belong to Vittorio. It belonged to Matteo Romano. The fingerprint alone could not stop the transfer. It proved that Matteo had occupied Aaron's security station, but Vittorio could still claim the hidden twin had acted independently. Sophia needed to connect Matteo's imitation, Vittorio's access, and the planned deaths before the countdown reached 0. 7 minutes remained. Aaron's image flickered on the booth monitor. "The booth is on the accessibility circuit," he said. Vittorio isolated the door electronically, but building code requires a mechanical release beneath the interpreter the SIR's desk. Sophia dropped to one knee. Her bruised hip protested, and her splinted hand struck the floor hard enough to blur her vision. With her right hand, she found a recessed lever beneath the desk. The booth door opened. A guard saw her emerge and reached for his weapon. Sophia slammed the heavy glass door into his arm, then trapped his wrist between the door and frame. His pistol fell. She kicked it beneath the booth rather than pick it up. She would not win this with a gun. "Sophia!" Vittorio shouted. Every face turned toward her. She walked to the center of the ballroom with her injured hand visible and her blood-stained dress uncovered. "The transfer is fraudulent," she told the corporate trustees. Matteo Romano rehearsed the forged signs inside the East Wing's security station. His fingerprint is on the position tape used to train him. Aaron transmitted the magnified print to the attorney's screens. One trustee ordered Matteo to place his thumb on the console again. The system compared the live print with the blood residue. Match confirmed. Matteo did not deny it. "I practiced what belonged to me," he said. "That proves no murder." Vittorio seized the opening. "Exactly, Alessio's father stole this man's identity. I helped him reclaim it." Sophia approached the succession clock. The clock fed Matteo every gesture tonight. But the timing pattern wasn't created for him. She repeated the intervals aloud. 2, 4, 1, 3, 3. Gabriel, still kneeling with his hands bound, understood before anyone else. He shifted his shoulders and reproduced the corresponding Romano commands as far as the restraints allowed. "Approach the heir. Open all exits, lower weapons, seal the east corridor, execute the witnesses." The irregular movement of the second hand had encoded the same altered instructions found in the black folder, taken from Vittorio's attacker at Est, Catherine. Sophia faced the attorneys. Only the residential security administrator can override the ballroom clock. Aaron's authenticated maintenance logs show that override was issued from Vittorio Crane's credential at 11:28 last night. The exact moment Nico disappeared. The logs appeared beside the fingerprint comparison. Vittorio remained calm. "Credentials can be stolen." "They can," Sophia agreed. "So we tested yours." She described the false diagnostic drive, Aaron's fabricated notice, and the East Chapel ledger. The notice had existed for 11 minutes and had been visible only through Vittorio's private credential. Miriam seized the case. Vittorio's armed men moved to the false location before anyone else knew it existed. The ambulance independent cameras showed Miriam taking the silver case. The tracker established its route to the estate. Port cameras showed Vittorio's men deploying at the East Chapel. 3 independent systems, none controlled by Romano residential security. Vittorio's expression changed. Sophia turned to Matteo. "He told you. The chapel team was coming to rescue you." Matteo looked at Vittorio. "They were sent to kill you," Sophia said. "That is a lie." She opened the black folder to Matteo's photograph. Beside it was a reversed sign. Matteo glanced at the symbol and laughed bitterly. "That means protect the claimant." "No, that is what he taught you." Sophia positioned herself across from Gabriel. Using her functioning right hand, she showed the correct orientation. Gabriel mirrored the gesture from the witness perspective. It meant remove the false heir after transfer. Matteo's face emptied. Vittorio had reversed Matteo's private vocabulary, just as Miriam had reversed Nico's. The Shadow Son had spent 31 years learning a language designed to conceal his own death sentence. The countdown reached 3 minutes. One of the trustees stood. The transfer cannot be stopped without a certified fraud objection from a Romano claimant. Alessio stepped toward the console. Vittorio raised his gun and aimed at Sophia. That was his contingency, not confession. But elimination of the only person who could translate the evidence into a coherent charge. Alessio moved between them. Vittorio fired. The bullet entered Alessio's upper shoulder and spun him against the succession table. He stayed on his feet long enough to shield Sophia as loyal captains drew their weapons. Vittorio pressed the barrel beneath Alessio's jaw. No one moves. Sophia saw Matteo's hands trembling. She signed to him one-handed. You can still choose your own meaning. Matteo looked at the man who had raised him, then at Nico and Gabriel, the family he had been trained to replace. Vittorio ordered him to complete the transfer. Instead, Matteo placed his thumb on the console and filed the certified fraud objection as a competing Romano claimant. The countdown stopped at 1 minute, 41 seconds. Vittorio fired toward Matteo, but Elena struck his arm aside. The bullet shattered the clock. Gabriel surged upward, driving his shoulder into the guard behind him. Nico pulled the utility knife from his pocket, the same knife Sophia had given him in the tunnel, and cut Gabriel's restraints. The prepared relay came alive without electronics. Sophia gave the first one-handed directional cue. Gabriel completed it. Elena confirmed his wrist orientation by touch. Nico carried the finished command to the loyal captains. Disarm security. Protect the witnesses. Seal every exit. This time, no sign was reversed. Vittorio attempted to flee through the musician's passage, but Alessio had ordered that route physically chained before entering the ballroom. No remote credential could open it. Matteo blocked the other exit. Vittorio turned with his weapon raised. Sophia stepped onto the crimson runner. You lost because you believed silence belonged to whoever controlled the room. Behind Vittorio, 3 loyal captains closed in. He tried to shoot her. Matteo seized his wrist. Gabriel struck the weapon away, and Elena kicked it beneath the succession platform. Vittorio Crane was forced to his knees beside the steel restraint where Sophia had been publicly condemned. At 5:59, the lead trustee canceled the emergency transfer and froze every port security credential associated with Vittorio. Then Alessio, bleeding from the shoulder, faced the 300 witnesses. Sophia Bennett did not betray this family, he said. She saved every person carrying its blood, including the brother we erased. He looked at the ruined hand he had ordered broken. The traitor in this room was me first. I chose bloodline over evidence, authority over truth, and punishment over the woman whose judgment had protected us for 6 years. No one spoke. Alessio removed the Romano signet from his finger and placed it on the floor before Sophia. I will not wear this again until the harm done in its name has been answered publicly. Sophia did not pick it up. She looked at the witnesses who had watched her kneel. Then, with one working hand, she gave the command that ended Vittorio's control. Open the doors. Vittorio Crane did not disappear into a private Romano prison. Sophia refused to allow it. The succession fraud involved federally regulated port contracts, falsified corporate records, attempted murder, kidnapping, and the manipulation of medical accounts. The independent trustees preserved the ballroom recordings, Aaron S. maintenance logs, the altered signing folder, and the security credentials before anyone loyal to Vittorio could erase them. Vittorio and Miriam were transferred from family custody to federal investigators through Romano Shipping S outside counsel. 12 compromised guards were identified. 3 accepted cooperation agreements and established the chain connecting Vittorio to the clinic attack, the forged footage, and the order to kill the heirs after the transfer. Vittorio never confessed. He did not need to. The evidence spoke in every language he had tried to control. Matteo Romano surrendered voluntarily. His fraud objection had stopped the transfer, but it did not erase his participation in Sophia's framing or Aaron's abduction. He provided the locations of Vittorio's training facilities and the original gesture archives in exchange for protection, not immunity. His identity was legally restored. His succession claim was suspended pending trial. For the first time in 31 years, he existed without pretending to be someone else. Alessio underwent surgery for the gunshot wound in his shoulder. Sophia's injuries required more. 2 fractures had to be repaired. A torn tendon was reconstructed, and nerve damage left her unable to feel 2 fingertips for months. The surgeons could not promise complete recovery. Sophia did not treat recovery like a test of devotion. She attended therapy 3 times. Each week, she learned to sign slowly with adaptive movements. When pain forced her to stop, she stopped. Gabriel helped redesign complex Romano signs so no life or death command would ever again depend on one interpreter, one direction, or one pair of hands. Alessio was not present at those sessions unless she invited him. For 3 months, she did not. He respected the boundary. He dismantled the private punishment chamber, removed Vittorio's security structure, and placed Romano Shipping S legitimate operations under independent oversight. Every employee falsely accused through the compromised system received a public correction and financial restitution. Sophia received something more specific. Exactly 6 months after the succession night, the same 300 witnesses were summoned back to the Romano ballroom. The steel restraint was gone. In its place stood a wide interpretation platform with clear sightlines, independent emergency controls, and no mirrored surfaces. Sophia entered wearing an emerald dress, not the torn one. This dress was tailored to celebrate the sensual confidence of her full, curvy figure, with soft sleeves that accommodated the support brace she still wore on difficult days. Her auburn hair fell over one shoulder. She did not conceal her injured hand. Alessio waited below the platform rather than above it. Before the 5 families, the corporate trustees, his blood relatives, and every captain who had watched her humiliation, he read the full correction into the permanent Romano record. Sophia Bennett was innocent. She was not confused, manipulated, or accidentally correct. She identified a conspiracy my command failed to detect. She protected Nico, Aaron, Gabriel, my mother, my brother, and me. I repaid her loyalty with public torture, because I valued authority more than evidence. He offered no explanation about his father, Vittorio, or the pressure of succession. I ordered the blow that damaged her hand. That decision was mine. The responsibility remains mine. Then he apologized directly to her. I am sorry, Sophia. You owe me no forgiveness, no service, and no future. He placed the Romano signet on the table between them. I offer you equal authority over every system that depends on interpretation, access, or silent command. You may accept, reject, or redesign the position. If you leave, your protection, compensation, and public record remain unchanged. Sophia looked at the ring but did not touch it. I will not become your employee again. Alessio nodded. Understood. I have formed an independent accessibility and security firm. Romano Shipping may become its first client, under contracts I control. A faint smile touched his mouth. Name your terms. I already did. She handed the trustees a completed agreement. Alessio signed, without altering a word. Only then did Sophia address what existed between them. I loved you before you knew how to see me, she said. That love nearly taught me to accept less than respect. His face tightened, but he remained silent. I don't forgive you because you were shot. I don't forgive you because you apologized correctly, and I will not promise you the woman I was before that hammer fell. I would never ask for her. Sophia studied him. What are you asking for? The chance to know the woman who decides what happens next. She let the silence remain between them, not as punishment, but as freedom. Then she offered her right hand. Not the injured one. Not yet. Alessio took it without pulling her closer. Above them, Nico began the succession sequence again. Gabriel completed each paired gesture. Alina confirmed the orientation by touch, and Sophia supervised from her own platform. 6 months earlier, she had knelt on that marble while a powerful man decided the fate of her hands. Now Alessio stood below her, waiting for her decision. Sophia gave the final sign. Proceed as equals.